My name is Cheryl Scanlon with Way of Life Coaching. Today we're going to talk about one of those top 10 skills that employers really want to see in their employees. If you're breathing, you've experienced conflict. And while never pleasant, conflict has the opportunity to grow all parties involved if people are willing to step into that conflict with one another. And instead of deteriorating a relationship, it might actually strengthen a relationship. That's right, Zoe. I have here with me today little Zoe. And we have had a very hard time videotaping this one because it's 5 o'clock at night, and every single time somebody passes by, she decides she needs to growl. See, she's making some assumptions about that at being this little watchdog. And this is what we're going to talk about today, is the assumptions that we make and the story we create that create more conflict than there needs to be there. So, a conflict for our purposes simply exists when two or more parties do not agree on something to some degree of strength and intensity. One of the biggest mistakes I've seen in conflict, including with myself, is the story that gets attached to the perceived conflict by one or both of the parties. And what happens is the person becomes so attached to their story, they're like a rabid Rottweiler, and they're just not going to let go for anything. This happens because we begin to confuse the facts with the feelings. Let's take road rage, for example. Somebody cuts you off in traffic. What's the first thing you hear yourself saying or thinking because you don't want to say it? I can't believe he did this to me. He's so rude and obnoxious. She's so inconsiderate. Women drivers. What a jerk. Your story now feeds the feelings you were having in the moment because you were surprised, taken off guard, inconvenienced. Maybe you suddenly felt unsafe, or whatever else you might have been feeling in the moment. But now you have attached a story to the feeling, and this can happen literally in 5 seconds or less. And the story then becomes the facts for you. That person is rude and inconsiderate because they cut you off. But the reality is, you don't know why they cut you off. You just know he cut you off, and you know how you felt. So own your feelings, but refrain from deciding that the driver cut you off because he's a jerk. You don't know, so you can't say that for a fact. See, starting with the facts may help you to work through conflict much quicker and maybe even less painfully. Your feelings are your feelings, but they are not the facts. Are you in the midst of a conflict right now? Perhaps you need to rewind and get back to that core conflict when it first started and ask yourself what you were feeling at the time. For those of you who don't like to think about your feelings, that's too bad. For if you want to resolve conflict, you're going to need to connect to those feelings. And remember, there's good news in this. Feelings are never wrong. They just are. So to admit that you have feelings is simply to admit that you're human and that you were impacted by another person's actions or words or whatever. Not necessarily intended the way that you took it, but you were impacted by it. Independent of whether there was a desire to harm, you felt hurt, so you were hurt. If it made you angry, you were angry, period. But refrain from an accusation of the other person until you know through facts what really took place. So what might change if you stopped making that assumption? If this is an area that you would like to work, we have free e-coaching available to you. There's prompts on the website that will help you to go through that process. We hope that you'll take advantage of that. Take care.